Good morning YouTube and welcome back to the channel, and in today's episode I'm going to tell you the story on how I bought a KTM RC8R and made £6,000 profit and put 2,000 miles use on the bike. For many years I lusted for a KTM RC8. They're just so unique in the way they look. That aggressive front end, aggressive tail end. It's a big bike, it sounds menacing, it looked awesome. And like many, I sat for hours on eBay browsing RC8s for sale. And I wasn't desperate to buy one straight away. It had to be the right bike. For those that follow the channel now, I've got other bikes in the collection. I thought, you know what? I'm not desperate for it, I just want to tick it off the list. It might be a complete disappointment, it might be incredible. So I thought, you know what, I'll keep an eye out and we'll see what comes about over the coming months. The requirements were quite straightforward. I told myself I couldn't buy a normal RC8, it had to be the RC8R because it came with slightly more power, but more importantly, the gearbox issue was resolved. And for those of you that don't know, the RC8, the first generation, awesome looking bike still, but the motor did have its downfalls. And unfortunately for me, buying something where a gearbox could be temperamental, stripping down the block, buying a replacement gearbox, it just didn't seem worth it. And the problem is because a lot of them were suffering with it when used as they should have been used, the issue was that all of them pretty much suffered with it or would suffer with it at some stage. So the task was set of finding an RC8R to get in the collection. One morning browsing eBay, an RC8R popped up on the listing. I thought, doesn't look like original fairings. It's a different colour scheme to what I've seen before. And it was classed as the Akrapovic edition. And I was like, well, I thought they just did the Red Bull one. At the time, I'd never heard of it. And I thought, God, could be Chinese pattern fairings on there. Had a quick look at the advert. Terrible pictures, not a brilliant description, but it said Akrapovic model, genuine bike, Akrapovic exhaust. And it has a starting bid of £5,000, and I thought, shall I see if I can get an offer on it? It's a pretty poor advert, maybe it's Chinese fairings. If it's got that exhaust, I could strip it and sell the exhaust for £1,500, £2,000, because the titanium exhaust not only sounds and looks wonderful, but collects an absolute premium when sold on the used market. Because I think the Club Sport kit that it comes with is about £3,500 in the UK, which is a lot of money for an exhaust. So I had a look at it, I sent the chap a message, said, is there any option to take the bike for the £5,000 that the starting bid's at? He said, not a chance. Message back again and said, what are you looking to get the sale done? He said, £7,000, and it was a very blunt conversation. I thought, you know what, I'll save it in the watch list, I'll let the 7 days run, and right at the end, as most of us do, I'll drop a bid in for £5,000. I thought, you know what, it's probably not going to happen, but you never know, it ended at a bad time, the listing wasn't great, it could happen. So the week went by, and dropped the bid in last minute, £5,000, bing, you are the winner. Won the bike. Thought, blimey, I've actually bought an RC8, which I hope is a semi-genuine bike, but at that price it was sort of £1,500, £2,000 cheaper than others with that sort of mileage on it, even if it wasn't an Akrapovic edition. So I thought, you know what, I'll get a van sorted and let's go and have a look. So after winning the bid, I ended up dropping the chap a message to say, look, I can come up on the weekend, pick it up, let me know your address. And I got one-word answers, and I was like, I know how this is going to go. He wanted £7,000 for it. I've paid £5,000 for it. I reckon he's going to cancel on me before I get up there. But I said to him, look, I booked the van. I'm ready to come and get it. If it is as per the advert, i.e. it's got the Akrapovic exhaust, it is an RC8R and it's HPI clear, the deal will be done. So ended up getting the van, driving up there early morning, cold, wet November morning as well. It wasn't a pleasant drive, not the exciting drive that I was looking forward to collect my new toy. And when I got there, called the guy, no answer, went to the house, knocked on the door, nothing, texted him. And I sat there for about 20 minutes. I thought, he's ghosted me. I've driven all the way up here, got the van for the day, and now he's not going to let me sell it. I haven't been rude, I just couldn't work it out. So I sat waiting for half hour, called him again. He said, all right. I was like, oh yeah, I'm here to collect the bike, half hour ago. Oh yeah, I was just out walking the dog. So I was like, no drama, okay, these things happen, but I told him the time I was going to be there. I was actually on time, literally much bang on time. I thought, well, we're here now. I'm not getting a good vibe from the seller, but if it checks out, we'll still take it. And then he opened the garage up. It was absolutely covered in dust, stuff resting on it. And I was like, yeah, this bike hasn't moved for a couple of years. But long story short, actually really nice guy. Once he'd warmed around to the idea of me actually taking the bike away, he wasn't happy with the price he'd got for it. But I said, look, it is what it is. I was the only one who bidded. He said he was moving to America. Pulled it out the garage, hadn't moved it for 3 years. Luckily, I bought a jump pack with me, so I managed to get it on the jump pack, fired on the button. I thought, yeah, do you know what? Let's just put it in the van and be done with it. The sale's complete, has got the Akrapovic exhaust. It had a plaque on the top yoke, which I was like, well, maybe it is a genuine. I don't know, I'd never heard of it. I'd only seen the Red Bull ones previously. So I thought, well, look, let's put it in the van. And as I loaded it up into the van, he said, look, some other bits and bobs in the garage. Do you want them? And I'm always for that, because the amount of value that people are willing to throw away with stuff with extras is just crazy. And I said, well, do you want anything for it? He said, no, I've got to get the garage cleared, so take the lot. And there was a brand new set of Metzler tyres in there, like track tyres, the standard exhaust, which we'll come back to, and like ASV levers, all sorts of bits. There was KTM knee sliders. I said, look, throw it all in the van. I'll take the lot and I'll sort it out when I get home. And yeah, paid the man, got out of there, got back home, pretty happy with the day's purchase. So over the course of the next week, it was time to get the bike properly cleaned. It was just covered in a layer of dust. And I thought, well, it needs a good service, but I want to see what it's like under there. And do you know what? Once I'd given it a deep snow foam, washed everything off, it looked absolutely fantastic. I was blown away and I thought, wow, this, even if it's just a normal RC8R, the first generation R, this is a great bike. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the models, I've done a full review, which I'll link at the end of the video. So if you do want to get up to speed on all the models that are available, that video details it. But yeah, happy with the RC8R model I bought. Did have a genuine Akrapovic on there. And I thought, look, let's get it inside, give it a good look over, see if there's any damage, which it was spotless. And I'll call KTM because I want to find out whether this is genuine. And in that time, the logbook arrived. It said on there, KTM Akrapovic edition. I thought, it's all stacking up. So I called KTM, my local dealer, and they said, yeah, it's a Akrapovic edition, 1 of 100 made for the UK. I was like, wow. And he was like, it's a pretty rare bike. He's like, you don't see a lot of them. They come with the club race kit, which again is, as I'm aware, a £3,500 package because it's got thinner head gasket, revised mapping, the full exhaust, and it runs 10 horsepower higher than the normal RC8R, so I made 180 horsepower on 180 kilos and 100 foot-pound of torque. So I was super chuffed that I'd bought a genuine limited edition bike for not a lot of money. So yeah, really happy with that outcome, and obviously it just looked fantastic in the workshop. Had it next to the RS250 and I just finally got one. As it was winter time in the UK, I certainly wasn't going to be riding this out on the road. Sport summer tyres, loads of torque, loads of engine braking, no traction or anti-wheelie. I thought, just going to wait till the weather gets better. But I thought I'll get it into the workshop, do a full service on it so it's ready, and obviously have a look over the bike while it's apart. I'm pleased to report, when I stripped it down, again, absolutely fantastic, clean as a whistle behind the fairings, no signs of any crash damage. Gave it the full service for the first time, got it right up to temperature, and I'm talking 4, maybe 5,000 RPM, just giving it a few blips on the bench, listening to that exhaust with their headphones on to protect my hearing, and the flames that were coming out of that exhaust were just unbelievable. It's such a shame I never took that bike out at night with a camera behind it, because they were, even in the lights in here, you could just see the flames coming off. It looked really, really good. Now during this time, I'd actually managed to sell a few of the parts. I had no intention of putting the standard exhaust back on, but that sold on eBay for £200. I sold the standard levers, I sold the KTM knee sliders, and basically it paid for all the service parts, the battery, and because I had the brand new tyres that it included as well, I didn't even have to pay for those. So I was like, wow, this bike on the road, all in, is £5,000. And at that point, I was like, well, this is easily £2,000 cheaper than the rest of them that I've seen for sale on the market, and I've got a limited edition bike, so absolute bargain. Now for those that have watched the channel, I've done obviously a lot of review videos on bikes, and I thought, you know what, there are other RC8 review videos out there, but I don't think it goes through all the details of the model. So I set about going to make my first ride and the review video on the bike, and wow, like, you really do need to experience one of these bikes because they are just unbelievable. They're not the fastest thing. I've ridden faster bikes that got a better top speed, but just the torque, the power delivery, the sound, the size, the looks it draws. yeah, really cool and truly unique bike. And like I said, I made that video, went down really well on YouTube. Again, I'll link that one at the end if you do want to catch up on all the models and see my first impressions out on the road with it. But yeah, really happy with what I bought, and I was just itching to get it out on a proper run. Throughout that summer, I ended up taking the bike over to the Cotswolds a few times with my good friend Sanj. Did a lot of early morning rides on it. I'm sure the locals did not enjoy the Akrapovic edition screaming away through the back roads of the Cotswolds, but had an absolutely fantastic time on it, realised how much of a brute it is. And the problem was I'd had these Metzler K3, I think they were summer sort of track tyres on there, and you go out early morning when it's 5 or 6 degrees out, and it just wasn't inspiring confidence. And at this point, Pirelli had just launched their new Rosso 4 Corsa, which I've used all the Pirellis previously, really good compromise for morning rides and being out in the cold and in the heat. So a good mixture of UK roads, especially when they're dry, worked perfectly. And I contacted Pirelli and they said, look, we're doing a new release on this model. We'll send you out a set. If you can do a video on it, review it, you get to keep. And I thought, perfect. Again, another cost, because that's going to be £250, £300. So I sent them out, did the review video, absolutely loved the tyres. And I don't have to say that because they just said, take them out, review it. And I've got them on the Ducati, I've got them on the Gixxer. Just absolutely love the Rosso Corsas. Superb tyre for my sort of riding style. And we ended up taking the bike to the Nürburgring as part of that video. Me and Sanj, we did 1,000 miles in 3 days, rode over there, did the track, rode back, did all the local roads while we was over there, and had an absolutely fantastic time. And that bike for me, oh man, it's got so many good memories, so many good memories. But as you can probably see from the garage, space is not my friend. I wanted another project. Yes, it was a great bike, but with COVID and KTM bouncing back really hard in the MotoGP, in the space of the 2.5, 3 years that I'd owned it, values of RC8s were just going up and up. Now, obviously, when they first came out, they weren't an amazing seller from what I found out online, especially with the dealers. They weren't a popular bike. A lot of them were being sold below list price, but because of how unique they were, because of how rare they are, no traction, no anti-wheelie, just a proper bike that could get you in trouble if you didn't know what you were doing or you took liberties with it. And the prices were just going up and up and up. And whereas when I bought it, a normal RC8 was £5,000, an RC8R was 6.5, and then the R later generation, the Twin Spark, was £7,500. The prices had all gone up £2,000-3,000, and it got to a point where I was like, well, there's 100 of these made. It's a genuine bike. It's got under 10,000 miles on it. It's the most valuable bike in the garage, and it's the one I'd loaned the least amount of time. I could never let go of the 748 SP because I've had that now, 8-9 years, and absolutely love the way it looks. Yes, it's not the most reliable. Yes, it's not the most comfortable, but what a bike. And it's one that I always wanted to keep forever, so that definitely couldn't go. GSXR I'd had a long time, and it hasn't really lost any money either from the 8-9 years that I've owned that, and it just does everything really well, really easily. And I was like, one of them's got to go. One of them has got to go. Change of circumstances. And I ended up putting up for £12,000 because even normal RC8Rs were at that mileage, £8,000 to £9,000. And chap contacted me, said, look, not looking to mess around, £11,000, I'll come and pick it up. And it was the first time I was actually like, I'm going to regret this, because they are going up and up in value. But at the same time, I've done 2,000 miles on it. The spits I sold that came with it have paid for all the service, and that, other than fuel and tax, I'm going to make £6,000 on this bike. £6,000, that's another bike in itself. And yeah, the deal was done, and off she went, loaded into the van, and I was actually genuinely sad to see that bike go. But you know what? You can't keep them all, especially in this situation. I've got a lot of cars as well, and it was just getting a bit overwhelming. I needed a new project. I'd done really all I could with that bike in terms of content for the channel. So yeah, made the decision to let it go. But who knows, years down the line, if my financial situation changes and space changes, yeah, I'd have another one. Even just to look at, I think they're really cool. But my favourite colour scheme is actually the orange and white on the Twin Spark model. That's the one I'd get. That looks properly cool. Really like that one. But I change a few bits over to the 2009 model, forks, wheels, because it came with the Lito Marcini wheels on there. But yeah, hope that was a bit of an insight into my RC8 adventure. And unfortunately, for those that have asked, yeah, as you know, on messengers that we've had, I no longer have the RC8R, unfortunately. But yeah, cracking bike. Hope you found the video insightful. Insightful, yeah. Until the next one, thanks for watching.